to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. For my chairman's report tonight, as everyone's heard so much in the media, hopefully you don't know anyone that's affected. I just want to address a few things about the COVID-19 outbreak. Nobody's prepared. We've been advised by the health agent, emergency management director, and the town administrator regarding our emergency preparedness activities. We receive daily updates from the CDC and the Mass Department of Public Health. And you can find these on our website. I'm going to make just a couple unusual. Everyone gets the cleanliness things, but one big thing, we want to avoid stigma. No particular race of people is prone to this disease. Early on, there were rumors that, maybe some people carried it, possibly some other people were immune. It's all false. We're all immune. We're all Americans. Don't avoid any businesses that are run by, people that are from different places than you are. We're all the same, and it's stigma, and it's not accurate. So, feel free to enjoy the places you would normally enjoy with the public at this time. Things are rapidly evolving, and Mass still remains at somewhat of a low risk. There are still precautions we all need to take to be prepared. The precautions are similar to precautions you'd take during normal cold and flu season. Wash your hands with hot soapy water for 20 seconds at least. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue or an elbow. Avoid contact with people who are sick. Minimize touching your face, eyes, and nose. Clean and disinfect surfaces frequently touched by others. Stay at home when sick. Create a household plan of action, and that consists of emergency contact lists. A lot of people have this, but some may not. The big rushes for food and supplies. One thing I don't want any of our residents to forget about is medication. Think about any medications you might need. If you can acquire an extra supply in the meantime, just in case, it's probably not a bad idea. And also be careful where you get your facts. Reputable sources, I've been finding the CDC and Mass Department of Public Health. That's going to be your quickest conduit to accurate information. And also, if you feel like you have respiratory symptoms, it's a good idea to call ahead before you go to the emergency room or your primary care doctor, just so they're prepared to receive you. Maybe they don't necessarily want you touching everything on the way into the building, so it's a good precaution to just give them a heads up. Maybe I'm dealing with something, so they know you're coming, they know to expect you and how to handle it and take precautions. And basically, it's a strong virus. There are other coronaviruses that spread between animals, spread between humans, and they can also cross species. So the proper way to refer to this is COVID-19. And similar viruses such as this one, can stay on surfaces for up to a week. So again, we don't have any real problem in Newbury that I've been made aware of, but just things, a lot of which you already know, hopefully maybe a couple things you weren't thinking of, and, just be prepared. There's no reason for panic. I've been in talks with Chief Riley. He's our emergency management person. I've also been in close contact with Superintendent Bryant Forget, just updates, checking in once in a while, has anything changed? So we're all communicating, doing the best we can to plan and stay abreast of it, and right now, no need to panic, but not a bad time to be prepared. So, with that, I signed up.
And JR, I think as communication progresses, it's like guys like my age that we probably should be just a little cautious of large crowds as it progresses. I think pretty much this is a little niche, but Marshall, you and I gotta watch out. Joyce, some people won't say it.
But even today, at 4 o'clock, the governor just declared a state of emergency in Massachusetts. So it's already ratcheted up a notch in the state.
Yeah.
So,
Mike, would you like to speak to basically what the state of emergency means? Because, what I'm apprehensive of, you know, we know what it means, but to your general public, it might make them feel panicked.
The state of emergency, the state's not panicking, but it's a procedural.
Right.
Doctrine that the state can use to circumvent some of the spending laws. So they can funnel more money more easily towards the coronavirus, fighting it. It doesn't mean that all the towns have to go out and spend money frivolously to stock up on Purell or whatever. It's just, it's a mechanism for the state to be able to more readily access funding to combat that. And as a result, with this, the state of emergency, it makes it easier for the federal government, for reimbursements through the federal government. And should it turn into something where the town of Newbury or each individual community has to overexpend its budget, that state of emergency makes it easier for us for reimbursements and makes it easier for the town administrator and the town government to not have to hold a town meeting to be able to use those funds in an emergency. That's all it is. It's just, it's a procedural mechanism. Doesn't mean to panic. So,
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you, Chief Riley.
Cool.
All right.
And I would think with the federal government just passed a, I don't know how many $billion spending bill. I think it was very prudent for the governor to call a state of emergency because there will be monies coming to buy
Yep.
testing kits and everything else, so,
Better to be prepared.
yep.
Yeah.
All right, I signed the PR 20-19 for the Board of Selectmen and Alan Jamison. Under new business, we have an appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's Mario
Carnivale.
Carnivale. I wasn't sure about the pronunciation of the last name, so he's previously served on the town's master plan committee and has a lot of experience in the
He was on the
professional
media
setting.
committee as well for years. He did a good job.
Yeah.
Motion to appoint?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Thank you, Mario.
It's nice that we got a number of recommendations finally for a committee, so it's nice to see people stepping up. And I wanna state my appreciation for everyone who wrote in a letter to the boards.
Yep.
Yes, I agree. Thanks, Tim.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We have a business license renewal. I'm gonna recuse myself.
A business license renewal for 2020 as follows: J.R. Colby and Elizabeth Knight, Common Pasture LLC, DBA Colby Farms, 50 Scotland Road, retail food, common vitular.
Motion to approve?
Ben, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Come on back. Now I'm gonna recuse myself.
Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet? I thought that was.
We got one more thing, I think.
No, this is Orchard Street.
We have a vote to sell a
Yeah.
parcel of land off Orchard Street containing 7.4 acres, assessors map R39 Lot 5, abutting the Martin Burns Wildlife Management Area. This was approved at special town meeting of 11/12/2019.
Motion to take a vote?
Second.
Yeah.
Discussion?
I can't see any reason that the town
Would
wants to
want
hold
it.
on to this piece of land.
Right.
Right, and anyone,
Landlocked, right?
correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a landlocked piece that's
Yeah.
basically surrounded by
Martin Burns.
Martin Burns.
state
Right.
wildlife
Yeah.
land,
It was
so.
included in our land auction and we didn't get any bids.
Yeah, there's no way to get to it. Right, so for 8,800, we'll be able to recoup it, and it'll be added to
Yep.
open space and wildlife management area.
Now, the only question I had about this is, at times in the past, we've wanted to do land trades with either the national government or the state government. There's no point in holding on to this till something like that comes up, right?
Town meeting's already approved.
So it's just
Yeah.
This-
execute it and be done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
Ed?
makes sense. Oh, sorry, Martha. That makes me, I just kicked your chair, I'm sorry. That makes sense because of this location. I mean,
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don Jarvis, Veterans Graves Officer.
How you doing?
I got it.
So, I come before you guys. I'm resigning from my position appointed by the Board of Selectmen. This whole process has not been an easy process for me, but recently, there's a lot of family stuff going on. I purchased a house to help the family out. through some financial stuff. And as a result, that house is not located in Newbury. So my residence has changed. By the law outlined by the Commonwealth, you have to be a veteran that resides in the town. So with that comes the resignation. I'm still planning on working with the scouts, overseeing the Memorial Day. I'm still planning on following that through and kind of being a point of contact to help kind of knit this together. There was nobody before me, as Jeff Walker can attest to. This was something that I discovered by sitting and going through veteran laws. And when I came back from my deployment, I wanted to get involved in the town. And it started with this appointment, and it led to several community events that we've done together with the approval from the board, the art festival being one of them, several other kind of things that we've taken on. So although I had to follow the family to help out the family, I didn't have to, I decided to. This became a very difficult decision because I did enjoy this role. I took a lot of pride in it. We got a lot of kids involved. We made a lot of progress here in town. I don't want to go backwards with the progress we've made. So I'm still going to be like a liaison, let's say. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. Obviously not now if there's any questions, but
Quick question.
Sure.
Do you have any idea of anyone that would be interested in a veteran in town?
I don't know.
Okay, okay.
I don't know.
All right.
That's been asked. I don't know. They have to be a veteran in town that can perform the duties or oversee the duties. I don't know a veteran that's interested in taking it on. Like I said before, there was nobody that did this. This duty fell under the VSO. And as a result, a lot of the fine tuning that we did, the cleaning of the graves, the resetting of the graves, none of that really got addressed because the VSO, the veteran agent, has a lot on their plate. Now, Karen, she covers 8 towns. You can't imagine her going in the cemetery on 8 towns. So when I discovered this, I went to Jeff and the cadet board at that time, and I asked to be appointed. And it was 2014, I think. So I have a letter for all you guys. So I very sadly have to resign, but I do want to be a phone call away and questions, and I am still going to be active in the community. I'm just not going to no longer be a resident.
Donnie,
Well,
did
thank you for
say
everything
this
you've
is
done.
Mass general law,
It's Mass General Law.
so it's not our bylaw, it's mass.
Correct.
general
It's
law.
Mass. I look, believe me, Jeff. When the house was going through the sale agreement, this was something I very much looked at and tried to find a way where I didn't have to resign. But the law says you have to be a resident in the town. So, and in all fairness, I'm not going to pick up the duty in my new location. So, I will really be available for any phone calls or guidance to help you guys.
I just want to say, I was surprised how close together we grew up, a little age difference. I didn't know you before my time here.
Yeah.
You came along at 14, I came along in 15, but I have to say your drive, your interest and passion for the work is infectious. And I really appreciate everything you've done.
Yeah, it's really. We've really grown, and I say we because I say that as a town and the volunteers who have worked with me. I recall 2015 when I took on the first burying ground project, which started by me doing this job and seeing all the veterans in bushes. That project started with me with hand tools covered up from my neck down to my ankles in poison ivy. It ended with 60 high school kids out there doing the final touches. And from that point forward, it's been a posse of people that have just come together to do anything that I crazily think of. Rather it be the art center, the art festival, which was a huge success for a while, the flag disposal box, which has been, Bill can tell you, there's thousands of flags a year recycled through this town. You know, so yes, we've kind of grown together, and it's been a lot of fun.
We had a great veterans event, this Veterans
Yeah,
Day.
and that's something I'm planning on keeping going.
Good man.
And there's another event that I want to do later this spring at the art center for our first responders. So even though I'm not a resident, I'm not going away.
Good.
Well, Donnie, I want to say that honestly, what stands out to me with you is that you've always put the town of Newbury, the best interest of the town of Newbury first. And you've always put the best interest of the veterans of the town of Newbury first. And that's rare. Thank you.
Yeah, and well, even with this, when it became time to, when I saw the financial struggle of my family, and the house had to be sold, and there was money that had to be dumped into the house, I looked at all angles, right, including the town of Newbury with this position, and I researched and I talked to a ton of department heads on what's the best. So I think being a liaison type
Yeah.
is the way to go.
Well, you've got some very big shoes to fill.
Somebody does.
Well, you are-
I
yeah.
wear size 12 for
Yeah.
those keeping track.
You've got some very big shoes to fill.
So I am only a phone call away, and I'm happy that still being involved at some degree.
I do have to just say one thing too, though. Donnie took it to a higher level with the recognition and the work he did, you know, even with television and other medias. But like Donnie said, I kinda went over the burying ground when he first got started. I mean, with that little lawnmower and everything else, no one
I didn't have much.
talk about work. You don't realize that, how big the burying ground is across from the church until you get into it and look at it. And it's hard now, because it's better, to realize how bad it was.
It was a jungle. So I have spoken to you guys previously. As you guys may have known, I recently published a book. So I started a book that's going to probably take me a few years about the first parish burying ground. And the cover of the photo is a gentleman. The cover of the photo is the front section of the cemetery that looks like woods. In the same, with a chainsaw. In the same location, there's another photo in the back, and all you see is headstones and no more trees. Just to highlight the intensity of that project. So it's something I'm working on. We've talked about it before, about doing it. So now that I learned how to publish books, I will do one eventually about First Parish.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Donnie.
I move that we write John Jarvis a letter of thanks
Second.
for all that he's done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. See you, Donnie, thank you.
Donnie, thanks.
Bye, Donnie.
Okay, we have a draft warrant review.
Do you want to do 61A first?
We can?
Just because this will take a while.
Okay. Okay, we have notice of intent to sell, Chapter 61B, Property 6, Marsh Meadow Lane, Byfield map, Assessors map R22, Lot 10F, owner Elena Jesperson. We reached out to town boards and committees to see if they could see any municipal use for this parcel off of Marsh Meadow. To my knowledge, all boards and committees answered. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Usually that's a question I'd
Yep.
ask Ellen. We don't
She
have it tonight.
provided the documents.
Yeah.
So they didn't find any municipal use in it. So I guess now we're at the point we take a vote.
We need a motion.
Motion.
Not to exercise. What's the best motion?
Any motion will initiate
I can ask,
the
okay.
discussion.
Not the town to
Not
exercise.
exercise
That's
your
right.
right of
Right,
first
right.
refusal.
I'll second that.
Or assign it to,
Second that.
Okay.
Right, not to exercise our right of first refusal for the reason that I can't see a good use for the
Right.
town to have it.
Second.
Okay, all those in, discussion. I guess I would agree with you. I don't see municipal use.
No.
You know,
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you're all set.
A lot of people
Okay.
for that.
You need a few minutes?
no,
Okay.
no, I'm just,
Okay, now we'll move on to the draft warrant review.
oops. I'll take everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Squeaky chair today.
So, most of the last couple months, starting in late December, has been dedicated to budget. Budget hearings, budget review, budget analysis, historical data gathering. What is important for me to understand as we, formulate the final budget presentation through the end of the month of March is your goals, because generally what the Board of Selectmen want to see accomplished is what drives most of the budget functions. So, I don't know if that's something you want to discuss tonight, or you want to think about it and discuss it at our subsequent meeting. We've got 2 other budget meetings, the 24th and the 31st, I believe.
I think we can roll over everything and get a feel for it.
Okay.
I mean, like, but not vote on this.
No, I don't.
No, you don't have to. This is just,
We need to look at
Preliminary
it.
look.
we have to vote on the vote has to be taken on the 31st, because that's when we'd have to have everything ready for
Yeah.
production for the Finance Committee booklet and
We're meeting on the
ballots and-
25th, though.
The 24th, I think, and the 31st is the last date.
Yeah, but we're not meeting on the 31st, right? We're meeting on the 24th.
Yeah, we have an extra meeting, that's the joint
Oh,
meeting
I
with the
do remember,
Finance
yes,
Committee.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So again, this is in a draft format and subject to changes, but this is all of the information compiled to date. What you're seeing in the first article is just what's gonna be on the ballot. This is kind of standard. The second one is when the moderator discusses with everyone in the audience, if anyone wants to make a report, whether it's, an update on the public safety building, or if the chairman of various committees make reports, the Finance Committee makes a report generally to kick things off. Article 3 is standard. It's I don't know why we do that, but we've done it every year forever, to fix the compensation for all of the elected officials. And then when we get into Article 4, that's the regular appropriation of all of the governmental functions. This year, there are a couple of changes, or a couple of items that I want to bring your attention to. Number 1, the town clerk's office. I'm going to be seeking funding for a full-time assistant town clerk. The town clerk has told us of her plans of retirement, and in the past, I think the past 3 times, it was the assistant town clerk who ran for the elected office. Once the town clerk notified us that they were gonna be retiring, the assistant, the person who works part-time in the office, doesn't have any intention of seeking public office. So we were hopeful, again, we try to get ahead of succession planning, and we were hopeful to get someone in to be able to go through really a 1.5-year budget cycle, election cycle with the town clerk, in the hopes that she would consider seeking election. We have considered in the past making it an appointed position, and there was some opposition, but in meeting with the town clerk, she had noted to us that if there was a way that we could ensure that the person who was sitting in that seat was a town resident, that she would be supportive of making it appointed versus elected. And I think there's a correspondence from the Finance Committee, we talked about it a lot as well. Because you can go through this planning and you can get someone in there, you can hire them, you can train them, and then someone else could run for the elected position, and
Or, maybe even worse than that, a well-intentioned person could run, and clerk is, like a lot of other municipal jobs now, it's a lot more complicated than it used to be. There's a lot of rules, and as well-intentioned as you can be, you make an innocent mistake and there can be huge consequences.
yeah, I think Leslie will tell you that the reporting requirements have become far more stringent and far more demanding of their time
It's
than they
really-
had been in the
it's a
past.
succinct mentoring process.
That's what this would do, but just be aware of the fact that even with the best planning endeavors, if you stick to an elected office, you could plan, but you don't really know what's gonna happen, so. So there is additional funding, that's something that would be above and beyond what we would normally see.
So I have a question,
Yep.
can we go back into that for a
Sure.
second? So, are you looking to hire a full-time assistant town clerk that resides in the town of Newbury?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good point, I'm glad you brought that up. The, job description, the job would
Require.
would have a residency requirement in it.
What's the retirement?
Her date is, it's not definitive, she's working, she had planned to go, I think it was December 2021, but she's working with the retirement board and she has to stay a little bit longer, so now she's looking at September of 2022.
Okay.
That's gonna be a busy
But that
time.
could change.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a lot of,
Yes,
a
there's a
lot
lot.
of changes coming, so. The other thing that will be new in this operating budget is, a utilities expense for the public safety building. So I'm working with, Zell. They have a formulaic computation that will give us an estimate of what it is. But we, potentially, depending on when the building comes online, we may have a portion of the year that we have to fund. Let's see, what else? Fire department, in their presentation, in their budget presentation to me, they have included, I think it was, I don't know if it was it at your request? The full overnight funding?
At least overnight funding for at least one station anyway.
Yeah, full, overnight coverage, 7 nights a week. So obviously, that's a significant increase to the operating budget. We have been adding gradually, trying to make sure it's sustainable. But if you want to do it all at once, then it's a pretty significant increase. Obviously, I should have started out by telling you the budget was not balanced. We're looking at having conversations about either entertaining overrides or making budgetary cuts. Revenues are down this year. We're not seeing the increase that we've enjoyed over the last couple of years, so that's something that in my discussions with the fire chief, we talked about if, rather than doing the normal or
Step by
the
step.
plan that we've been implementing, adding another night, if they added it all at once, whether or not that was something that we would want to consider for override, or how you wanted to fund it.
Did the chief, he recommended that approach?
He submitted, yeah, that was the budget that he submitted to me.
I don't know if we just want to discuss it a little bit. I'm not opposed to this. And I've been finding like a 50-50 split with people I talk to. Right now, in talking to the chief, talking to Tracy and looking at the lay of the land, our fire coverage is the same or more than any community around us than Newburyport. On the other hand, I've had to rely on emergency services a couple times in the last 3 years. So it's tough. It'll be a bill to pay if we go full bore and add 2 people. If the fire department unionizes, the burden will be even a little more possibly. So it's tough. I think it's important to put it in front of the town. I feel conflicted about cutting into the budget to do it. I mean, maybe it's best placed as an override so town meeting can decide, yes, we want this, or yes, we don't, because I'm finding a split between people that can justify paying for the extra coverage at night and other people that tell me they're on a fixed income, they can't afford to add any more services. That's what I've been encountering.
Well, you're looking
I was gonna say, go
at
ahead.
it throughout the progress of maybe some of these articles, right?
Yeah, and we'll certainly talk about it more.
I
in the-
agree totally with JR that even though you'd like maybe to strategize and plan, and I don't know how many surrounding communities have that type of coverage, but you know what? It's a choice that the selectmen should maybe not take away from
Oh, wait.
the public.
It's like, for years.
They
we
just
had-
gotta know that it needs to have override funding, because we really can't take it out to fund all the things going forward. And you know what, guys? That's gonna be the way with the schools too.
Right. And on the flip side, the other option is to ride it out over a few more years and slowly roll more staffing into the fire department,
And
so it
that'll
isn't
be
as
the
much of a
choice
shock.
of what the town
That'll
wants.
be,
Right.
right.
Because it'll go the ballot too, right?
Either way, we're
Yes.
working towards adding more staffing to the
Right.
fire departments. It just, we, as a town, we need to decide how fast we wanna move forward.
I mean, for years, we had an amazing deal in this town. We had a lot of local people that were volunteers, and they did, but a lot of people have left town, a lot of the firefighters don't live in town. And like I said, so it's like, it's a reality we have to face.
Right, and it's hard to, nowadays it's harder to find the people that can throw the hammer down, throw the shovel down, throw the hay bale down and go to the,
Like I said, it's now.
go to the scene.
It's like, you know,
But I
exactly.
think, Michael, as easily as I can say it, people have got to understand that we can't really work it into our budget because it'll ultimately be very expensive.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it needs to be on the back of an override.
Well, I just don't wanna have what happened to my neighborhood happen again.
But I'm saying, that's what the people got to realize.
Okay.
Okay, and when we have this conversation again, I'd like to see the thing that I saw before that had the whole plan, the chief's plan. It was a 5-year strategy plan. Rollout, I'd like to see how this changes that.
Well, it would be done all at once. We would,
That's the
we
only
would
change?
complete
Yeah.
it this year.
That would be pushing that that phase and plan aside and moving straight to the goal,
Okay.
is what this represents.
Yep.
And without Article 18, are we still, so if we didn't pass Article 18, for instance, we would not be increasing this year at all?
We would be increasing it to add for one additional evening of
Okay.
coverage. Yes.
We'd be following the structure
And
we set
following
up
the
before.
plans.
But I mean, like I said, the only thing people really need to realize, it's their choice, and it's gonna be on the back of extra money.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't wanna hide that fact. That's why I'm being so explicit, you know.
Yeah,
It's just gotta be that way.
You know, Chief Janvern has discussed with me repeatedly the difficulties in getting
Yeah.
the call response. It is limited. We're not getting the same responses we used to.
Yep.
Triton Regional Assessment, the request came in at about an additional 514,000. In the operating budget, I funded 304,000, leaving another 209 that would be subject to an override. Again, this is just our stepping off point. We've, in the past, used our 50-50 model, for lack of a better terminology. Based on the new revenues coming in this year, we're only projecting $409,000 in additional revenue. So, you know, generally what we did was we kind of took
Split it.
50% for town operating expenses and 50% for Triton. We want to make sure that that Triton remains at about 50% of
Well,
our operating
education, not just
budget.
Triton, right? All of
I
it,
should
right?
say education,
Yeah,
yep, you're
okay.
absolutely right. Education stays within that 50%. And so I took the 204 and then another 100,000. I don't know if you recall, it was last year, we had some excess levy capacity and we put it into the stabilization fund to give
Right.
it a bump because we knew
It was
we had a
coming.
feeling the assessments would be increasing at some point in time. So operating, again, is a 304, so about a 3.2% increase in our operating budget, and then the rest in this first draft iteration has about a 209,000 override for Triton. So between the two of them, you know, you'd be looking at about $100 a year for the average taxpayer at this level.
Alicia, do we have a school committee meeting Wednesday?
Yes, we do.
It's gonna be discussed, right? Into the budget?
Triton budget is gonna be discussed, yes. So, I mean, that kind of went over my head. Can you go over that one more time?
Sure.
You're saying that,
The total increase that they're proposing in their assessment for this year.
yeah,
It's in the packet too. isn't it, Tracy?
514,000.
yeah,
Yep.
Okay, and what I was able to fund, again, we have this finite pool of
Right.
additional money. I took 304,000 of the 204,000.
But is that out of levy capacity, or is that
Yes,
out
out
of
of
the?
levy capacity.
Okay.
Out of levy
Okay.
capacity, new growth, estimated
Yeah.
receipts, cherry sheet aid,
Yeah.
all of the revenue side of our equation that we
Okay.
receive. And I took 304,791 and funded it
Yeah.
in the operating budget, and there's still a gap of about 209,000.
Okay,
Again, this is budgeting to zero, eliminating the deficit.
Right.
So that's where we are
We've
with
got all
that.
these figures right in the packet, and
Yeah.
it's right there.
Yeah.
It is, you know,
And, you know, they're gonna be meeting, they'll be making revisions to
Right.
their operating budget, we'll be making revisions to our operating budget as more information's available, but that's just, I just want you to have a feeling for what it's looking like right now.
I guess I agree with you, an override seems to be the best way to cover the shortfall, and, I mean, I got a son that's in the school system now, Newbury Schools, Triton School System, and I want him to have a good education, I want his friends to have a good education. The town's bills have gone up, the school's bills have gone up, there's bills neither of us can avoid, and I mean, there's some we can, and, I mean, I'd like to see a little tougher negotiating with the teachers' union, but on the other hand, it's similar to fire services, it's a split in the community, I find. It's people, say in their mid-50s up to 60 and below, see the value and the merit and don't mind putting more towards the schools. And I find the majority of the people over that age I talk to, you know, tell me it's also important to educate the kids in the best manner you can, but they're on fixed incomes and they can only afford so much. So it's a tough,
If the
again,
state- if
I
the-
think we need to figure out where the rubber meets the road and let town meeting decide.
If the state just kept up their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'd
and
be
if the
easier.
state, they give us mandates, they don't fund them.
Yeah.
So that, the problem lies there, it's like I said, and that's a tough thing.
it's the only group I know that doesn't have to honor a contract.
That's right,
So, but I mean, Alicia and I both had kids in the school system,
I did too,
and I forgot
yeah.
about that. And, you know, it was a choice we made to keep them in the school system, and they got a fine education, and none of it's easy, because I think we all ran, and like we talked before on public safety, highways, elderly, we all ran on these things to try to make sure we funded everything evenly.
well, this is a big concern to me, because this isn't gonna get better. Next year, it's gonna get higher, and the year after that, it's gonna get higher, until the state fixes their problem.
Right, and then we get into the situation where we cut staff and employees, or the school system has to cut staff and employees, and then it gets real ugly like the old days.
But Alicia, remember when we had that meeting when everyone was there, Bruce and Brad Hill and everyone?
Yeah,
And we realized, you know, I happened to say how much of the pie of the state of
Right.
Massachusetts goes to education, and it was something like 16%.
yeah.
The rest goes to health. They're never gonna fix it.
I mean, we spent the last DCC meeting was all budget discussion, and the increases are all pretty much around special education, and they're beyond the school's control. There's a little
Mandated.
increase from COLA, there's a little increase because of the negotiations with the teachers, but they're an insignificant chunk compared to what the state is not funding that it should be.
Like
And so-
transportation and some of
Like
the.
transportation, healthcare.
Healthcare is another thing that's killing us.
Well, healthcare throughout the state is taking the big cut of the
Right.
pie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no money left for the state to
So
help
when I
fund the growing
meet
bill
at
of
the end of the month
education.
with the MMA Fiscal Policy Committee, I'll bring this up to them, because they
We
need to know.
We need to have a separate
where-
gambling ticket or something
Yeah,
for the
they'll-
schools.
Yeah.
They'll, because this isn't unique to Triton.
No.
There'll be
No, we
plenty of the
just
people
need
on that.
Another source of
Policy.
income.
You know, Jeff, that's an interesting idea.
Gotta be something.
Well, if you had a scratch ticket that went to the schools,
You gotta have
maybe that
something.
would draw a lot of interest.
Gotta have
I don't know.
something. Build it.
You know?
They
Interesting
divert
warrant
it.
item.
They would
Yeah.
divert it
I look
anyway.
at- I look at Salisbury right now, HUG is bringing $90,000 a quarter in for them, okay? And like I said, granted, it's a legal business now, and But if we could get $360,000 in extra income from one shop, it would be amazing for this town.
That's why I pushed to,
Yeah, Damon was out front,
Yeah.
Jamin, I'm with you.
and I
We
mean,
have the
our
law.
bylaws, not to
Anybody-
put you
people can come
on
in
the
here.
spot, did our bylaws make it too restrictive? It wasn't too restrictive, right? What happened?
the setbacks from houses and the daycare made it very hard to find a location. There are only 2 spots in town.
But
so,
weren't they kind of significantly the same in all towns?
They were, well,
we
they were,
modeled them.
yeah, they were modeled after other ones and after what we had done for the medical marijuana originally.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
The next area we're gonna see an increase is in our DPW salary and wages. We are going to be in the first year of our new contract. That wasn't the biggest hit. We have a laborer who will be, he attained his requisite licenses and will be advancing to a truck driver, equipment operator within the contract. So that's a big jump there.
How much of a jump is it? Out of curiosity.
Total between the contract and that is a little over $50,000. The library has provided a budget presentation that is about a 12.4% increase in their salaries and wages, a little over 26,000. They too talked about they're going to be going before the HR board to talk about the classification plan, and they want to reclassify a lot of the existing employees. They also talked a lot about what their plans are for the future and how they're working towards additional hours, and talked about their programming and how the library isn't what libraries were when I was a kid, that they've become more community centers and they offer much more programming, much more robust programming. So it was very interesting hearing what they had to say, but, so that's what this increase proposal.
All this 340 is that?
Yep, that includes an additional $26,000. And that's really the only areas that we see significant, I'll call it significant, not really, but
Tracy,
significant
back-
increases.
Back to the highway department, for one thing. Any cost such as that, you know, we've asked the highway department to take on so much extra work, so, it's like they're doing a lot more than the old highway department used to do, from streetlights to,
Yeah, I probably should have highlighted that a little bit
Just a
too.
little, 'cause it
One of
makes it-
our employees went and got his contractor's license. So as a result of that, they've renovated the DPW facilities, the bathrooms in there. They've done the work. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see in the fireman's hall. They did all that work themselves. That saved us a lot of money. They'll continue to be able to do.
build a boat ramp.
Well, yeah,
Just
that
little
goes
things.
without saying,
Just
but,
little things.
no, they've really, we've got very
Stepped up.
talented group of people, and they're real hard workers, so, yeah.
And they seem to be having fun even still.
They totally enjoy their jobs.
It's all part of assembling the right team.
It is indeed. You talked about health insurance. This year, we've been extremely fortunate. We're part of the MIA, the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, their collaborative health insurance purchasing group. So because we're so small, if we had any catastrophic illnesses, it would pretty much wipe us out. So we have to be part of a larger co-op. But our experience has been good, both in terms of medical as well as our workers' comp and those things. So our medical insurance is going up 0% this year.
Wonderful.
Which
amazing.
we've seen double digits,
No, that's right.
for the last decade. So this
that's-
is really great. That's gonna help us a lot this year. So that's.
Oh, but what will next year bring?
Well, who knows? Who knows? So that brings our operating budget to just over $20 million we're looking at, as compared, you know, to last year, we were 20.6 million, we'll be at 20.9 million. Overall, again, what's funded here in the operating budget is about a 1.6% increase over the previous year. You know, that's not what everybody asked for, that's what my recommendation would be to you at this point in time. The next article, we're asking for $100,000 to be put into our stabilization fund. Articles 5, 6, and 7 have appeared pretty much every year as the first articles on the warrant. They're very, to stress their importance, the fact that we've spent a great deal of time putting financial policies in place over the last couple of years. Obviously, they're effective, they've served us well, we're replacing our capital equipment and facilities at a rapid clip. We've, you know, we're fixing our buildings,
Paving our
AAA bond
roads.
rating, paving our roads, so it's working. So I would encourage you to continue on this path, funding our stabilization fund, funding our OPEB. Obviously, we have a little over an $8 million unfunded liability there, so it's gonna be a long time before we get there. But once our buildings are all completed, you know, that's the point in time where you would move more of your free cash into it to try and get it fully funded quicker.
Right,
But,
and I know you said it, but just to put it in layman's terms, that the great credit rating that the town enjoys right now is due to following these policies, keeping money in the stabilization fund, funding post-employment benefits. That's something other towns can't afford to do. They're just sliding into the hole. So, and that's, thank you for getting us on the right track with that stuff.
Is there-
Following policy isn't always fun.
No, it's not
year
easy.
after year, but you do see the results when you stick to it.
Is there talk about, at the state level, about the other post-employment benefits being relooked at?
they're always relooking at it. I haven't received any directives to
No,
date.
right.
But they're
I
always
think
looking
there's
at
chatter
it.
that they're looking at, because they know it's not,
What are they looking at?
it's not reasonable. I mean, it's not achievable, I guess is even a better word.
A lot of communities owe, retired employees so many post-employment benefits that they're just buried in it.
It's just not, it's
Yep.
like saying,
Just was curious
want-
to,
That was
Pigs
brought
to
up,
fly.
that
They're
was
never gonna
brought up
fly.
at the DCC meeting about retirement. I think the Raleigh Finance Committee said.
yeah.
It's like, we're paying dental, and he says, and most of us retired don't have dental, okay, so we gotta start looking
And-
at stuff.
Even if we should get to our 8 million and fully fund it, we still own a portion of Triton's. So,
That went up.
yeah.
To jump on something you said, JR, I think we also have to give some credit to we've had a very good finance committee. That has
Absolutely.
been,
Excellent findings.
and they've been giving us a lot of good advice. They've been looking at capital planning, and so we've been doing a lot of long-term thinking financially, which I think has helped the town considerably in weathering the shocks that are coming. So, just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Definitely,
yeah.
they're receptive to ideas, conversation, working with our administrator.
I was selectman back then when, I think it was Marshall and Bob Connors, and was it Frank Visconti and everyone on the board then? And they brought this novel idea in of capital planning. And it was like, we weren't gonna let you plan over what, 10 grand, it was like a fight. And now it's turned out to be,
Best
you know,
practice.
oh, it's just very important. And I mean, when you're AAA community and you go to borrow money, it makes a difference, when you need things, so. Sounds good.
Okay. Article 8 is our annual appropriation from PEG Access. That is to run the PEG department. We now, I can't remember the consultant's name that gave,
In Salisbury?
Krista Thomas.
Yeah.
oh, thank you, Krista Thomas report, had recommended that we hire a full-time person. We now have a full-time person on board. It's taken us a few years, but we got there. Last year, I think we had appropriated 112. This year, we're looking for about 95,000.
Is any of this gonna go to Triton?
Nope, I haven't had any requests from Triton to date.
Okay,
It would be a special article. It would have to appear as, this is their
Okay.
operating budget. This is
Okay.
the operating budget.
All right, because we have to look at that, because I know Brian said there was a switch that they needed to be able to go live
To make
from
the whole,
Triton
to make the whole
From
school go
outside
live.
of the building, right?
The stadium, I think.
Yeah, the stadium.
No, the
whole-
stadium's
whole
something
school.
different. This
The
is
whole
something
school.
different. This is, right now, they're able to film or go live from the library, the auditorium, and one other thing, Mike, what was the other thing? The library, the auditorium, someplace else. They can't go to the stadium yet. They need a
Can't
late
go to the
cable
stadium,
for
yeah,
that.
Can't go to the stadium. It was a gymnasium, maybe.
Maybe.
The gym, I think
The
the
gym.
gym's live.
And, but they have to do some little fancy footwork, to be able to do it. They have to unplug one cable, plug in another
Can
cable.
he get that?
I'll forward the
Can he
email.
get that for,
Yeah, I wanna have them give
Yeah.
us an estimate on that, so we can,
So would we do it like we did the other one?
yeah.
We
Yeah.
would pay a third, Raleigh would pay a third, Salisbury would pay a third.
well, this only benefits Newbury. This is so Newbury
Yeah.
can go live
This
from,
is, because our channel only
from-
goes to Newbury.
right, it's the Newbury channel only.
Right, but I would think the equipment would also let the other two towns see.
No,
see
it's
things
only,
because they don't
only
have-
for us.
They don't have Comcast in Raleigh, they have a tool system.
No, they have Comcast in Raleigh, but what Brian needs is only for us. It only benefits us.
Well, what,
We'll need
do
a
you guys wanna
recommendation
work on
from you.
chasing down exactly what?
Yeah.
the-
just
Well,
get
yeah.
the statistics, and if it's definite
Yeah.
for this town, we won't ask.
My
them.
my understanding isn't much better. I know there's an outdated piece of equipment, you know, and I know the students, they jump a bunch of wires around, they can get it to work, but it's not fancy.
Yeah, and if you wanna put it on as a special article, we'll need the quotes, all the details, what it does.
Yeah, I
So this
thought he-
says, it says, just to confirm, after speaking with Bob, all three locations, the library, auditorium, and gym, are set up for live broadcast. Stadium is still a need, but we're talking about upwards of 15 to 20K to fix that. It involves cabling, equipment, conduit, some very high-end solutions, so he's not talking about that. So one thing that Bob did mention, and I believe your folks here in Newbury and IT are aware of this, is the Comcast box in their outbuilding. We are supposed to be able to flip a switch to go live
It's
to
not
to Newbury's education channel. Apparently, it's old, outdated equipment, and our students have to literally reconfigure the devices and cables to go live, then rearrange it afterwards. It can happen, but it's not ideal. That will be a great use of the funds, but I'm not sure what that entails, and that would be between the town of Newbury and Comcast. So that's something that we should have this gentleman look into, but it's only Newbury. It's not nobody else.
Just get us what it is.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
make a statement to that? That's nice.
Sure, come up, please.
I heard you talk about the library is already being covered. I was actually part of that, working with Bob Lathrop and Sue Densmore. And so some equipment was secured through funding, through a company that I was associated with. So if you do have needs that Comcast can't satisfy, I'm just offering out. If I can reconnect the people to get that switch in place, I'm offering my help.
Okay. I
because
think
like I
we have
said,
to
that's-
identify what it is we need first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
As soon as we know, we'll let you know.
Good. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, bud.
Okay. Article 9 is our revolving funds. That's, again, this article, all of these articles you see returning year after year. This is appropriating the funds for the recreation revolving fund as well as the municipal waterways improvement and maintenance fund, also known as the harbor master fund. Article 10 is appropriating the annual operating budget for our ambulance enterprise fund. Everybody keeps asking, is it self-supporting? And it is.
Wash.
And not only is it self-supporting, it is fully self-supporting in that we are charging the indirect costs that the town incurs, town accountant's time, the time to do payroll, all of those, we're charging them back to the ambulance enterprise fund, so it is self-supporting. Article 11, it's time to update our actuarial analysis, our OPEB report. We do that every 3 years, so that's gonna be about $6,200. Article 12, the library. A number of years ago, when the capital planning committee first really got active, we did some building envelope studies. We did the Newbury Elementary School, the library, and the Grange building. it was time for an update. So we did update the library building, and what you see here is a request for about $65,000. And we have a whole report done by CNA, and it lists out about the next 10 years worth of repairs and what we need to do first and when. So this would be the first year, and what we would need in 2021. Same thing with Article 13. We're seeking $92,700 from the stabilization fund, and that is making repairs to the Newbury Elementary School roof. We've had a lot of questions and a lot of concerns over the last couple of years. So rather than speculate on what everyone thinks is wrong with it or might be, or how long it's gonna last, we actually commissioned a report, and we had them come out and do an analysis, and their suggestions were, rather than, doing a whole new roof, that we address those things that need immediate action, and that's this 92,000. And then over a period of about 4 years, we can take other actions in repairing pieces of it, so we don't have to enter into it. And they gave us a couple of alternatives, and James will be ultimately working with them and making a recommendation on which path to go in. But the
'Cause I know the-
circular part is the worst.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
the stage, it leaks on
Yeah,
the stage.
that's the original,
The
I
circle
guess.
part's the best part.
It's the only part that was there when I was a kid.
Me too.
So all of the work, when we get to that
And the
point,
stage, it rains on the stage too.
does it? Yeah, yeah.
can be very
So
theatrical.
all of the work, James works with, Chris, lost his last
This
name.
one, Chris,
No.
Chris Walsh.
Thank you, Chris
Yeah.
Walsh. The two of them work together as far as scheduling everything, and
Okay.
let them know what's going on. Article 14, back again. The 220,000 for the
Yes.
Plum Island Boulevard. You had talked about putting it back on, maybe not. What,
I wanna put this back on, and I wanna start I wanna start having it up at the library and both floors at the town hall and on the building as to what this is gonna provide.
It won't
I
be,
would
it
like
won't
that.
have any controversy at all, it'll be fun.
No, I think where it is where it is in the article too also matters, the placement of on the warrant. So, we can have that conversation later.
And I will say, I know myself, I was so preoccupied with getting the police station over the line at the end, I should have pushed harder for the bathroom. And of course, I thought, again, the police station would be the big pushback, and that went easy and the
Well, I think
bathroom
it
didn't.
was-
And some of that fell on me. I should have,
Fell on all of us. I mean, I think it came later on the warrant. I think we had somebody come up and, give false information to town meeting, which swayed the vote. So, we just gotta be prepared to, contradict any wrong information, misinformation that comes up. That is not in a flood zone.
the other thing that comes into play in this one is the funding Bruce Tower was able to secure for
Yes.
us. It expires sometime in June, I believe.
June 30th.
But it's only 40, right?
That's
Yeah,
still
but
40 more than we
40,000.
already
I
have.
know,
grand's
but
40
still,
grand.
but when we first just
Only
thought it was gonna be
40.
the whole thing.
And
Yeah.
also, Bruce, I know he worked his tail off to get that money
Yes.
for us out of that state budget, and I would hate to proverbially spit in his face
Well, not use it, yeah.
and not use it.
Not use
There
it,
might
because the
be-
next
there
time we
might
need
be-
it, it's just
There
not
might be
gonna
more
come.
money that maybe the state can find too. It's a funny balance for those folks that are for or against. And I'm speaking in a hazy fashion, it's not cast in stone, but we do seek services from federal and state agencies to protect our beach. And to get those federal and state monies, it has to be a public beach. So we have parts of that beach that are held in easements for a public beach, and then we have some of that beach that is private. So providing bathroom services also has that presumption of, some public parking and some public services. Because if we ever had to foot the bill of dredged sand being placed on the beach and all the other issues that Plum Island has we couldn't do it.
And not only that, we already own the building. I mean, the town has expended monies to purchase that building. So, I mean, this, to me, this is a no-brainer. We're a beach community, I think we need to embrace it.
And I was surprised when it got bounced from town meeting. I could have done a better job presenting it. But it's
Well,
one of the
you can be on
things.
stage next time, this time.
Yeah, great. But it's one of the things, over the years, I've kind of received the most complaints about or inquiries about, and especially, we don't have to be in the business of providing public toilets for businesses, but that's kind of a unique situation where you have all those businesses on that main drag. The beach has to remain public. We can't shut it down and make it private because we've accepted state funds in the past. And the people on the beach have nowhere to go, and they're crashing the businesses and using their bathrooms. It's just a tough, I guess like you said, it's, not every community deals with it, but it's part of being a beach community and being a beach community that has a public beach.
Yep.
Well,
And also
Tracy,
That
noticing,
allows dogs part-time of the year,
This-
so that it
this
comes
is
even
an up to-
further.
They
It's
get
an
no
up-to
full-time
fund
now.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
And
Quantum.
the highway
From the-
department's gonna do some of the work and everything too,
They'll do a
right?
lot of the work, but, you know,
Well,
Well, the
obviously,
plumbing. and-
commercial grade fixtures are
Yeah,
quite
they have some.
expensive and,
Yeah,
you know,
really?
I
HVAC
went
stuff.
down there
We'll-
and let
We'll
them
have to
down.
bid out.
Yeah, they make it.
That's better.
Right. That's a high, and that's a good point,
Make a
Jeff. That's
private
the,
anytime you want.
that's the high water number.
Yeah.
We've, over the last few years, we've had a pretty good track record of coming in under the appropriated amount, so, and not underestimating these
yeah.
things.
And I think the other factor is that once they're built, it's a yearly maintenance fee, not a rent the porta potties, which no one has ever come up to me and said they really enjoyed.
They tip over in the wind,
Wait.
and it's
Yeah.
just,
So
never mind what
like I
comes
said,
out of
it's
them
an
and blows
improvement
down
for
the
the
beach.
town.
My concern still is crossing that street in the summer from, you get the corner, you've got people coming out of the town parking lot, you've got people coming from the other boulevard. It's a very dangerous corner.
Yeah,
And I just hope to hell we don't lose somebody.
No, we won't, because people park over there anyways. They
No,
park
but
across
they
the
come
street
around,
anyways.
they come around that corner amazingly fast. I go down every Sunday.
Well, that's why, Chief, we need to have another, an officer down there to make sure that the speed limit is correct.
We put a beach officer down there on the busy days, but, even a pedestrian light or something there at some point.
Yeah.
A flashing light maybe or
But it's
something,
not-
yeah.
it's just to slow the gang down, because it's,
There are different things we can do.
okay.
Do you have any data on accidents in that area? or-
Off the top of my head, I don't, but we don't respond there very often.
So could you do me a favor, Chief, could you be prepared to speak to that at town meeting? Of what the traffic situation is like town?
Michael,
Thank
does
you.
that have a painted crosswalk?
Yeah, there are one, two, three. I think there are 4 crosswalks in the
Okay.
vicinity. But, you know, it all depends on how often the enforcement's out there. I mean, people don't stop for people in crosswalks, you know, and it's, when we see it, we cite people, but, you know, but we haven't had any pedestrians hit, people cross there all the time, and, but, you know, I do take into account that it gets real busy, and that's why we post somebody usually on the busy days. We try to post a beach officer out there, at least to be visible, and it'll slow people down.
Just to bring a statement up so that it gets on TV. Crosswalks, no matter how people feel about them, people should stop. But the problem is too, when people walk into the crosswalks, sometimes they think people are gonna stop, and it's so dangerous. And most of the new cars nowadays, because the way they've constructed roof safety for rollover, and especially for guys that drive trucks. I mean, you've got something this big that could block out a trailer truck, let alone a pedestrian, you know, the roof pinion that goes up. So when people, just so the TV picks it up, just please don't think that people see you, because they might not see it.
I cross Route 1 by the Newburyport 5 Bank to go to the green every day with the dog,
Yeah.
and I'm in that crosswalk, and I'll say 40% of the time, I'm in that crosswalk, people do not stop.
Because they're doing something else, and that's
Right.
that's a straightaway.
They're on their
No,
phone.
Curb
But the thing
sometimes.
is-
They're on their
I know,
phone.
but the thing is, but it's dangerous.
I know.
So that's what I'm saying, it's like,
Okay. Have
Article
philosophy.
15 is for upgrades, hardware, software, phone system licenses for Town Hall, Council on Aging, DPW, and Fire Department, as well as the Police and Fire Department phone licenses. I should have mentioned to you too, this one, as well as the elementary school roof and the library repairs will all be going before the capital planning committee for discussion.
Where did this come from? This request?
IT,
Okay.
yeah. Article 16 is the basketball courts coming back. They've revised their figure. It's a little lower than it was previously. I am going to a meeting of the Newbury Rec Committee. I believe it's the first week in April.
First Monday night.
First Monday night in April,
first
so I'll
Monday in
hear more about that. At this point in time, they had expressed a desire to move it forward.
It's just gonna be tough this year. I mean, we're talking a possible override. This is gonna be tough.
Does that have something, I mean, is that have to go out to bid, or is it something that
course.
we can, I don't mean it that way, but,
Oh.
I mean, can the highway department help in that too? Or is it gotta be a
I-
contractor?
I think that would likely be bid out. That's a pretty specific.
Yeah, it's a special,
Specialized.
Yeah, they may be
Jumping
able
on
to
it, what do
do
you call
some
it,
of
For
the,
frost and
site
everything
work.
else? Yeah.
I do want to thank the rec committee for being patient when it didn't go through the first time. We were juggling so much other stuff. Basketball seems to be gaining popularity as people shy away from contact sports, head injuries and things. Not that basketball can't be dangerous, you can't get hurt, but there's definitely a resurgence in interest. And if this is something we can do from free cash without strapping ourselves, we got a good rec committee there, I think, and the interest is there. Whether town meeting agrees or not, we'll see. But I think, the interest is there, and it's something we
and I
don't
think
normally.
they've thought about it. They've looked around the surrounding areas, they've looked at tournaments, they've looked at the potential for revenues. They've put a lot of thought into it, so I'm hoping they'll have a,
And on that side of town,
presentation.
when I was young, we'd go to the old Byfield School and
Yep.
shoot on the old crack court there,
Yeah.
even after the school was closed. But now on that side of town, there's no place to do that.
you know,
Now, that would be from free cash.
Yep.
Don't they have extra money in their revolving account?
not much.
They spent it down? Okay.
and plus they do have, I think they have maybe another $10,000 or $15,000 from a,
They're hoping to get some sponsors and,
no, they have I think they already have money set aside. They had raised Triton Youth Basketball had raised some money years ago, and they put it aside to try.
we don't have it.
No, but that's
Yeah.
gonna be. it'll become
Donated, yeah.
Donated towards this, but it's not only like $10,000 or $15,000.
Hey, it's still,
That's a lot.
still help.
Well, yeah.
Yes, for
Well, you look
something
at
this
90
size.
though.
17 and 18 would just be the way you present the override proposals if you decide to move forward with them. Article 19, this 19 and the rest of the warrant is Martha's attempt to make it really long.
Can't blame it totally on me.
No, I don't know, you wanna talk about the stretch energy code?
The stretch code, this would be if the town would be interested in pursuing green communities designation, which we've talked about a little bit, back in 2009 when the stretch code was first suggested. There was quite a difference between that and the base code. At this point, there's virtually no difference.
That's something, the first time around, I was resistant to this because I was afraid it would make it too expensive for young people to build a house in town to meet all the new green code. But you said in the next few years, our standard code, for lack of better terminology, in this, we're gonna level out, and you were right. Because I've reached out to some contractors and things about this, just trying to do my own homework on it, and they seem to agree with your assessment that the code is leveled out at this point.
Yeah, the differential is very, very small at this point. And if we are interested in green communities designation, this would be the time to get it on the warrant because the application is due at the end of October. So if we were to try for the fall town meeting, it would be difficult to do that. I did have a discussion with Bob Sinibaldi, our interim acting building inspector, about his experience with green communities and the stretch code in Merrimack, and he was very positive. He admitted that he was kind of resistant to it at first, but he said it's really opened up, grand opportunities for Merrimack, and there's a designation amount that we would get, which would be roughly, say, $140,000 that we can use towards, various energy kinds of things. Efficiencies, right.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
it's,
one of
if you read the reports
I shouldn't
and the amount of money that goes to other towns for having approved it is, it always hurts me to not have that coming into our town as well. Because we're always strapped for cash, and to be, just for approving something that's almost already our building code, it seems like we're just watching money run away from us.
Seems to make more sense now than it did a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it's certainly closer. I mean, there are other criteria that we have to meet, the energy management plan, commitment.
That's as a municipality.
As a municipality, commitment for expedited permitting, to say that we will do everything we can to permit projects within 12 months, which we do anyway, except for some extraordinary projects that have come before us. The energy efficient vehicles, and there are certain exemptions for, heavyweight
DPW.
vehicles, DPW, things like that.
That was also a concern of mine.
Right. A commitment to zoning either for renewable energy research and development. We've been told that our zoning already meets that, because we do allow research and development by right in the business and light industrial district, so we don't need to change anything for that. We don't have to allow renewable energy itself by right, as long as we do the R&D. So, there are other things, but this is certainly the one thing that's kind of time sensitive in terms of adoption.
Article 20 is making changes to our Newbury's general bylaws for the alcoholic beverages. I don't know if you recall, this came up when, relative to the Byfield Community Arts Center, when someone was subletting it, I guess, and they wanted to have alcohol, and our current bylaws wouldn't allow for that. So this amendment would allow them to do that in the future, to have alcohol at that facility.
Right, so at town meeting, basically, as a community, we're gonna have to decide if we want to have a business with regular liquor serving or not. Is really what it boils down to. Once we discovered that the use really didn't comply, they had to stop serving alcohol. That's basically what the decision's gonna be for the community, if everyone's comfortable with that.
But this would also allow, if someone wanted to do a big wedding on the playing fields, they could serve alcohol there. Whereas right now, we couldn't, I don't think we can allow that either.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, so it's a question
It's
about
not just
flexibility. It's
specific to that one item, it's
Yeah.
townwide. It would be the beach too, right?
Right.
So we just have to decide as a community what we wanna weigh as a liability or the activities we wanna allow.
Yeah.
Okay. Article 21 is asking the town meeting to accept our agreement, our tax agreement with Borrego. That's kind of I guess, a formality at this point. We did it for the Bashar project, and now this is for the Main Street project. Article 22 is asking to make changes to Chapter 460, the Acts of 2008, which is the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator Act. Selectman Greco had suggested that we change from a Board of Selectmen to a Select Board. I think a lot of communities are going in that direction. But in addition to that, Town Council is drafting the language. There are a number of other changes that we're gonna propose be made to the act, primarily due to, there's some relative to dates. We have reference to Board of Fire Engineers, which we don't have anymore. I think there was another position we added that wasn't addressed in the act when it came into play, I want to say 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, 2008. So we'll make she's gonna provide us language for the appropriate changes. And that would go before town meeting, and it would also have to go before the Great General Court, it would go before the House and the Senate for their action.
And the Massachusetts, it's now the Massachusetts Select Board Association, it's no longer the Board of Selectmen in Massachusetts, so
Yep,
that's the general way things are going.
yep. And then we have a series of zoning amendments.
Right. The public hearing on those will be next week on the 18th, so we should be able to finalize that language
So
and make the
we-
recommendations after that. So when you review the warrant again on the 24th.
So there are 4 different,
So we've got zoning amendments regarding dimensional requirements for lots, for driveways. One to add a definition for driveway into the zoning. One for the rewrite of our wireless communications bylaw. And that one's still a work in progress, so I'm not quite sure whether this will be the time to move it forward or wait until the fall.
yeah, you're not sure if it'll be ready for primetime viewing at this,
No, there's a lot going on in that one.
yeah. Is that it, Martha, just those 3?
So it's those 4, basically, that we're looking at from the planning board.
And then we have another bylaw, a series of bylaw amendments. I don't know if you recall, but Larry Murphy, who's now on our planning board, part of a senior rebate program project, took our existing town bylaws, went through them, and found where in our bylaws, we have multiple bylaws that conflict with one another. Town council had suggested that we take it in 2 parts, so at the last town meeting, we fixed all the scrivener's errors and all the punctuation changes. And then this town meeting, we figured at the annual town meeting, we'd get into the more meatier changes. So she's drafting those as well.
Just gonna be a long town meeting.
Maybe. And then there's potentially an animal bylaw.
Should be.
I sent it off to Lisa today.
Okay,
They-
great.
All it did is it combined the dogs and other animals and the animal bylaw and added nuisance
them all
animals
together.
into it, yeah.
So you're cleaning it up?
Trying to.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last 3 articles are the articles that were submitted by citizens petition by Michelle O'Gerry and a few others. So those are appearing exactly as they were submitted.
And those are the ones that were submitted to the planning board from public hearing. That public hearing will be on April 1st.
That's it.
Thank you, Tracy.
If I may, I have a couple other things in my administrator's report.
Sure.
The Mass Audubon provided us with their report, their coastal water bird report. It's available if any of you are interested in reading it. We entered into another contract this year with them to do our shorebird monitoring for us. Last year, they erected and maintained protective fencing as well as educational signage. They provided information to the beachgoers as they were entering and exiting the beach area. We found, let's see, I think there were 6 pairs in 2018, and it was down to only 5 pairs in 2019, and only 4 of them nested. They suggested that their biggest management challenges were relative to beach raking and dogs. Those were the 2 biggest issues.
Can you just put a copy of that in my mailbox tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
You give an extra copy of that, or just one?
No, I just have that one.
If you make a copy, just throw it in my mailbox sometime this week.
Sure.
Thank you.
Plum Island permitting, I think Selectman Walker, you had mentioned that Rep. Mira visited with us. He met with Doug Packer and myself about the possibility of dredging and placing materials on the beach. He was gonna be reaching out to Newburyport and Salisbury as well to see if, we could take a regional approach to this permitting project, so that's gonna be ongoing. And I asked Doug if he could provide, information on the steps that would need to be undertaken to really allow for this to happen, because I'm not sure.
Well, Woods Hole did a study
Right,
about, purchasing a regional dredge.
yep,
And the cost of keeping it busy all the time, and the maintenance and the personnel was prohibitive. So there's still talk about how to regionally maybe enter into a buying group, or, to be able to do some of these things and be able to lower the cost. One of the things that's hard for people to analyze too, not only is there a lot of permitting that goes through with dredging, but if it hasn't been dredged before, it's a real leap to get it dredged now. So, everyone says, why don't we dredge the Plum Island River? Well, if it hasn't been dredged before, you probably will never get it dredged. So, those are the things we're up against in getting a dredge or keeping a dredge busy. So, and that doesn't mean that there can't be extenuating circumstances that are public health or something, and safety. But dredging is it's a process.
that's definitely on our agenda. Congratulations to firefighter Ashley Noyce. She graduated recently from the Firefighter Academy. It's a pretty rigorous program. It's 4 months, and they go to school 2 nights a week and 1 weekend to earn both Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 certificates, so it's great to see some new
I know that.
firemen coming our way.
She's a nice girl.
And then comes the burn trailers.
What's that?
Then comes the burn trailers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You have to crawl through trailers with fire over your head. So,
The annual audit for 2019 is complete and up on our website for anyone who's interested in reading it. I get excited about it, but puts a lot of other people to sleep. Just in terms of an update on the building commissioner search status, we are extremely pleased to have Peter Burnett joining our team. He is currently the building commissioner in Newburyport. He has extensive knowledge of all things Plum Island
Island
for
is
us
huge.
to, we were very fortunate. We had a
Heard some
great
really, really good things about him.
Yeah,
Yeah, really.
a good pool of candidates who applied for it, and I think it's gonna work out really well having him here. He will be starting beginning March 16th. He plans to extend the office hours, so he's gonna be available Monday through Thursday, 8 to noon, so he'll be there in the office every
A
morning.
lot of people building homes and contractors would be glad to hear that.
Right, so certainly join me in welcoming him aboard.
What was his name again? Peter?
Peter Burnett.
Bennett, okay.
Yep. The conservation agent search is underway. The job's been posted. I'm reviewing resumes. Ideally, it would be great to get someone on board by the end of April so that they could work in conjunction with Doug. He has got such a tremendous amount of institutional memory. I don't think, they could probably work with him for 10 years and wouldn't get all of it, but,
Yeah, and I know, much like Don Jarvis earlier, Doug said, I'm not moving away, I'm not disappearing, like, my phone still works. Like you said, the institutional knowledge is great there, and
Yeah.
he's done a great job for the town in a lot of tough times, especially with what we have going on Plum Island at times.
right, so.
and the thing with Doug, it's just not like JR was saying, the issues that, our rivers and all the things that go along with being a Concom agent. But there's institutional knowledge with, the erosion issues and everything else on a large level, including the Corps of Engineers and all those other aspects, is something that working with the Corps is an art form in itself.
For sure. Just an update on our regional brush disposal proposal. I don't know what happened. We were working with the city. Things were going along nicely. We had worked out a number of the fine details, and unexpectedly, I got an email from Mayor Holliday saying that the city council will not support this initiative moving forward.
One of the, I mentioned to you that I talked to a city councilor, he had an open house at Haley Saturday, and he said, well, the head of the city council would not move it forward at all because, yeah, I guess he has a history, I don't know, with moving, I don't know what it is, I have no idea. But I still think it's like, it's a shame.
What'd you say? I couldn't quite hear it, Mike.
Okay, I met with, oh my God, it's like, it's just pulling a blank, I'm tired. One of the city councilors, he had an open house on Saturday mornings at Haley's. He said that he thought it was a good idea, but he said the head of the city, the president of the city council, doesn't have a fond feel for Newbury sometimes, and he thought it would die there, but he said he's gonna do it, he's gonna speak to a couple of the councils, see what he could do.
One of the other things in conjunction with our budget priorities, as you establish them, Senator Tar was interested in understanding what they were as well. So as you develop them, I'll get that information off to him. I think in hopes that he may be able to provide some funding to Newbury. Let's see, Cricket Lane, you're all aware that that information is available for review in the office. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I apologize to TV and the people in the audience. You never should give a squeaky chair to a guy that fidgets.
Right.
I know, you can all hear it, can't you?
On TV, it's really bad.
I gotta come,
I curse it.
I gotta,
And I always get it.
someday I gotta come in and oil these things.
Just that one.
I know, this one's a little,
one,
maybe I worked it out. We got a letter from Triton Regional School District updating us on their workings with the budget. We had an email from Marshall Jesperson, Chair of the Finance Committee, bringing forward his recommendation from FinCom to, for updates to our town clerk job description and the way they serve. We have a from Pie Rivers Partnership. We received an email and documents from Catherine O'Brien regarding her opposition to development at 105 High Road. We also received a letter from the Newbury Senior Center Expansion Committee, which I'm gonna read here, just to keep everybody up to speed. Dear JR, we have the information that you requested from our Chairman of the Council on Aging for the number of seniors that visit the Senior Center. It is 1,035 for the year of 2019. The number is low in comparison to other centers, and the reason is the one room we have is limited in space and shared by our outreach case manager and our program coordinator and newsletter editor, who work in cubicles located in the same room. This presents a space problem for a number of activities that we would like to offer. There is also the problem of privacy with phone conversations. All of the above will be explained in the study and research work that is presently being done by a 3-person committee that has been approved by a Council of Aging Board of Directors. When the work is completed, we will be presenting our findings in the form of a written report to our board, and upon approval, we will then present it to the Board of Selectmen and others within the community. We are looking for the support of the Selectmen and the town residents on this venture to find additional space. We are not looking for a new building to be built, just the availability of a structure that we can raise money by donations and hopefully a grant to turn this unknown structure into a workable senior center. The best location would be a middle point between Plum Island and Byfield, so all seniors would be within a reasonable drive. We will be available for any questions you may have. Please direct any correspondence to the attention of the Town of Newbury Senior Center Expansion Committee, care of Town of Newbury Council on Aging, 63 Hanover Street, Newbury, Mass., or contact one of the members listed below. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully submitted, the Town of Newbury Senior Center Expansion Committee, Joyce Macheros, Evelyn Noyce, and Sandra Small.
Do you know when you'll have that report?
I'm hoping next month, probably on your second meeting of the month.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, and tonight I wanted to encourage the other selectmen, as I also plan to, I'd like to come and visit during business hours, just so I can get a real hands-on feel for what's going on and what you guys think you need.
Jerry, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was putting out an invitation, if
Ah.
you addressed me in any way, that I hope all of you that haven't been there before, or even if you have, will stop by and refresh yourself.
And that's it, I've been a couple times, but it's been a couple years, and
Yes, yes, so so when we do submit the report, you'll have a better feeling as to what you see and what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've been over like 3 or 4 times in the last year, and one of the things I said to Maggie was, the HIPAA concerns is what bothers me the most,
That's correct.
because you got people out playing cribbage or something, and there's no partitions going all the way to the top,
No,
and they're talking medical conditions, they're talking prescriptions, they're talking, and it's just,
private,
it's a
very
it's
private.
a HIPAA violation.
when it comes to health issues, people definitely deserve privacy.
Yeah, it's a HIPAA violation.
So, I don't know, what are your thoughts? We'll get the report, read it, and then add it to the agenda after that, a meeting after that, to discuss possible
Yeah,
solutions?
right now, I anticipate adding it to our next agenda for further
Well,
discussions.
after we get the report, I'd rather discuss it after I get the report.
Yeah,
I want to
okay.
read the report,
Right.
come visit, and then we can
Right.
discuss.
My concern with this is I don't want it to be like other projects in town that have been, well, as Eric Spons put it for years, kick the can down the road. If we keep talking about it, we keep bringing it up.
we've been
We'll
like
find a
that,
solution.
I don't know the dates, but I know originally there was a small room in town hall. And when we moved to the Newbury School, it was wonderful compared. But now, in this time, it isn't. It's, you can't do different dances or exercise classes, and exercise is really important to seniors to be able to have classes, and it's just not feasible to be able to do it.
Right, and it's good to have reasons to get up, get out of the house,
Yes,
go stretch
exactly.
out.
And
that's-
on luncheons, we only can fit 20 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something actually the rec committee also mentioned, was working with the council on aging to try to find recreation solutions like yoga and that kind of stuff for you guys to do as
Exactly,
well. Yeah.
yes. We were doing Tai Chi, but it didn't work, so now they do it at the library,
Yeah.
which is good. But,
It would be nice if you had your own space.
right, it certainly would. Thank you all.
All right.
You're welcome.
Joyce, I think it should be mentioned too, because, the Council on Aging was great to my mother, Alex, and everyone down there, so that it's not just the stuff that goes on in the room either.
You're right,
That
you're
it's
so
way
right.
outside and
Their
way integrated.
outreach
Yeah,
is
so
wonderful.
And I know
it's
you,
a good organization,
Those on
guys.
wheels.
and you folks are checking up on everybody, but you're also checking up on people that maybe don't have family that's close and making sure they're
Right.
okay, and
We
that's,
make visits, telephone calls, and even when they go to deliver the Meals on Wheels,
Yeah.
they're getting into the houses and actually being able to take a census of what is good there.
right, make sure everything's okay.
Yes,
But
exactly,
even at the Christmas party that Jeff and I went to,
yes.
they said that room is not gonna be available in Newburyport anymore, possibly.
No, it's not.
I mean, so.
We got
Right.
told, they tried to cancel it.
Right.
We had already booked it, and then we're trying to book it, and we told we weren't able to do it. We were gonna have our Christmas party there.
Yeah,
And then they changed their mind and let us
for 1 year,
come.
for this year.
And that's the end.
That's the end of
Now
it,
we
yeah.
have to find another place to
It's
have
tough,
our
it's tough.
Christmas party.
Because we're, as an elderly population, we're growing.
Yeah,
Really, I mean, it's like, when you- the two
Newbury has
ends,
a
the two
building.
ends of the board are holding that up.
yeah, and Newbury definitely has a building, over 65
Yeah,
population.
oh, yeah. All right.
Well, thank you again.
You're
Yeah,
welcome,
thanks,
thanks
Joyce.
for coming in.
You're welcome.
Do we have any meeting updates? I know with budget and everything that's been going on, everyone's been pretty tied up.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of discussed the DCC discussion of
Yeah.
the budget, which was pretty extensive. There's a continuation of the public hearing for the golf center till April 14th at 7:15. So,
Just out of curiosity, why was that pushed? Is it for?
essentially.
Are you guys gonna get into conversation? I'll just step out
Oh,
for
no,
a second.
no, okay,
No.
all right, if you want, I just.
I don't mind.
I just.
No, you know what, for process in the public, I'm gonna recuse myself, so you guys can.
Outside of the hearing, we probably shouldn't talk about much anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So,
just asking when it was pushed forward.
Eric didn't have any new information to
Okay.
present.
That's all I need.
And he requested the continuance.
Yeah, and he
Okay.
requested that we,
Didn't know what the reason.
That's good, at least we know, that's
Yeah,
good.
no, Thank you.
That's good.
You can come back, JR.
Okay, any other meeting updates?
That's about it.
All right, do we have meeting minutes? I imagine we don't tonight.
That's where we have the
Oh,
14th.
do we? Oh, you know what, we do,
We have
because I
January
just looked through them.
14th.
Yeah, of course we do.
on February 25th. So motion to approve minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I believe we have warrants tonight, correct?
Motion.
Motion's second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everybody.